Have you ever wondered to yourself, how is the podcasting industry going to continue to change and grow and evolve over the next year or years to come? How do you build a community that is intentional, that is excited to be there, and people that actually respond when you put out a question? How do you get people to comment in your DMs and engage with your content in a meaningful way? This is what we're covering in today's podcast episode on As It Relates to Podcasting, and I think you are absolutely going to love my guest. Let's get into it. Hello. Welcome back to this week's episode of As It Relates to Podcasting. I'm Simona Costantini, and I'm really excited to bring you today's conversation. It's with Kendall of Riverside FM, and we're talking a little bit about some of the new Riverside updates and features, but we're also talking a lot about what's happening in the podcasting world and landscape in this current year right now and as we head into 2026 and beyond. We're talking about community. We're talking about how important it is to build out community. And we're talking about so many facets and how to actually build a community that is intentional, where you grow your show, grow your audience, and grow your impact. If you are looking for a community, I actually have one. It's called the Podcast Success Vault, and the link is in the episode notes below. It is a low-ticket membership, and we meet 3 times a month, and it's kind of mastermind style. So on each call, we do different things every single month. So the first call of the month is usually a guest, and then the other 2 is either me teaching something that's relevant to the industry right now, or mastermind style, where we sit around together and each person gets a specific amount of time where they can ask all of their questions, get any answers to any of the questions that they have, and we help you build real strategy for growth within your podcast. Please check out the link in the episode notes below. I would be so grateful and so excited to have you in my community. So the link for that is below. And if you're new to Riverside FM, or maybe you've used it in the past, maybe you've left the platform and are excited or curious to try it again, there is a link in the episode notes below where you can try Riverside FM and get your hands into it and see what happens and see what you love. Now, without further ado, let's get into this conversation with Kendall. All right. Welcome to As It Relates to Podcasting. Today, we have a really fun guest. Actually, Kendall, you have been a guest on As It Relates to Podcasting before. We did a 4-part series years ago, talking all things.
Feels like just yesterday.
Doesn't it just literally? I love that though. When you don't talk to someone for a while and then you actually sit down and you're like, "Hi, how's everything?" Nothing's changed. Everything's changed all at the same time.
Exactly. No, I'm excited to be on again. It was so much fun last time.
Me too. I'm so excited to have you here. Thank you so much for being here. We have a really fun conversation in store for the listener today. I'm excited to dive in because there's a lot going on around Riverside FM right now. We're going to talk about Riverside. We're going to talk about all the things that are happening in the Riverside world. We're also going to talk about podcasting, and we're going to talk about community. And I want to know your thoughts on what you kind of think for 2026 as well. But I first want to share, by the time we're recording this now, it's already live, that Riverside has introduced hosting to its platform. That is so exciting.
It's very exciting. It's like an entire new kind of frontier for us for podcasting. So it's really exciting. You know, we were doing recording, then we went into editing also, and now adding hosting. It's really cool to kind of enter this new chapter of it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. So you can record, edit, and publish and host your podcast now. And yes, I believe that we're the only one that you can do the whole workflow. And really, like, where that came from was that we were talking to people about their workflows, and it's insane what podcasts are doing. They're like, I'm recording here, I'm downloading everything, then I'm putting it in my editor, then I download all of that, I upload it to my hosting. It's just so much uploading, downloading, file passing, and then on top of that, like, so much money. You know, like so many different subscriptions that people have to get to just get their voice out there and get their show out there. It's crazy. And then on top of that, there's scheduling tools. There's people are using things to clip and transcribe or whatever. So what we're trying to do is make it so that you can do as much as possible in one space, still keeping it like professional, high quality. But then also that like we can make podcasting a little bit more accessible because it won't require 10 different subscriptions to be able to do it.
I love that. So in the actual, since you brought up subscription, is it a different like category, like different plan that you would have to get in order to have access to the hosting?
No, it's included in all paid plans. Yeah, so there's no extra cost. It's already included. So if you already have Riverside, it will be already in your studio on your left-hand side and your dashboard. And if you don't, we didn't raise the prices at all. So it's all already there.
Oh my God, I love that so much. Okay. I really, really like this because there's no secret that all of the tools, the industry, the way things are done, everything changes so fast. And there's so many new products out there that have all kinds of different capabilities. If you look at different hosting platforms, for example, that are trying to integrate different data or new data, video data, and get really specific, my question is, one of the biggest pain points that I have as a producer working with other creators, business owners, and so on is always the data, and it's always the analytics, and it's always the numbers. I feel like that's some of the hardest data to get in podcasting, and it should be so much simpler than that, just given how much tech we have.
It should be so easy. Yes.
Make it make sense. So is there anything on Riverside's hosting that'll differentiate in terms of the analytics capabilities?
So right now, analytics, you have the top episodes, you have top apps, top countries, that kind of stuff, which is standard. But we're going to be adding more and more analytics as we go. This is kind of like version 1, Riverside. So we want to put out something that's really great for you to use and that you'll love to use, and then continue to add to that. So right now we have the analytics that are kind of at a basic level, but what we're going to be doing is adding to that. But instead, I think like the differentiator is the idea of doing it all in one space. So less than analytics, it's the idea of being able to do it all in one space, and not just to have your entire workflow there. But like, for example, if you edit an episode and you get your show notes for that episode and your chapter time codes, when you put that episode into your hosting, it already has your show notes populated, and like the description, your chapter time codes is already there for you. So there are other ways that like it kind of differentiates itself as far as making it easier. But analytics is something that's going to continue to come for sure.
And like evolve and so on, especially when you think of all the video stuff. Is there capability to upload any type of video right now? And I'm going to tell you why I'm asking afterwards.
Okay. So right now it's Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. And then you also get your own RSS feed. So for Apple and Spotify, for Apple, no, because it doesn't have video. But for Spotify, there's like kind of a workaround for now that you upload via Spotify. It's the audio, and then you can go into Spotify to add that video. If that makes sense?
Yep.
And then for YouTube, you can upload directly to YouTube. So you can get the video and audio out there just directly and in a click. Super easy.
Interesting. So the reason why I'm asking this, and I'm wondering, I've been trying to figure out how quote unquote true this is, if you will. When it comes to the video side, I've always been of the mindset that you should, I don't like saying should, because like you really should do whatever you want, but like I've always been of the mindset of uploading to each like native platform on its own. So for example, on YouTube, taking the video and uploading it directly, being able to change your thumbnails and your titles and descriptions and all that kind of stuff, because they're different algorithms. You know what I mean? They're different things that people are searching for. Do you have the ability to customize? And what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so actually, I think that's really interesting because I haven't really spoken that much about it or like talked much about it, because I know that that's how it works for social. If you take a video and just kind of spray it onto everything, Instagram wants you to edit on Instagram, and TikTok wants you to edit on, I guess, CapCut because they bought CapCut, right? So it's like interesting because maybe that's kind of how YouTube works. I would say that I haven't heard that like people have been penalized by the algorithm based on that. I think that maybe YouTube understands that like most people aren't recording and doing everything directly onto YouTube. I would say as far as uploading and everything, what I would do instead, there are different ways when you upload to YouTube, different things that you need to be thinking about. So for example, the file name should have keywords in it. So I know that like it scrapes everything from the description to the transcript, all of that. So making sure that you have your keywords like in your caption, in your title. So titling the episode even in Riverside as like with some of those keywords in it, I think could be really helpful. I don't have like for sure numbers that like this has like posting directly to YouTube from YouTube is beneficial anyway, but it's actually really interesting. I'd be interested to see if that's actually how it works. Yeah.
I know. It would be, it's honestly, it's really interesting. And so I've even gone so far as to like upload to Spotify separately instead of connecting the RSS feed and doing that. If you want a video, for example, on Spotify, doing the video uploads there directly versus doing it in the hosting platform, just to like try and test and trying to see if there's different reach or like what is, what are the analytics saying and so on. But I think it's mostly because there's like such a lack of the analytics. Like there's such a lack of data that it's like you kind of need to figure out. People will say, oh, 60% of my listens come from Spotify, but it's like really hard to go in and try and qualify that and be like, where do they come from? How are they finding you and all that stuff.
Exactly. And then you have to end up asking your audience, how did you end up finding me? Or sending, I know people that send surveys or that type of thing. It's hard to track in a way that's actually pretty surprising when it comes to where we are in the internet age.
Yeah.
Like even like I saw that Twitter/X just added the ability to be able to see where in the world people created their accounts from, which I think is actually really great for transparency.
Interesting.
But yeah,
what
it's
benefit
like
do you think that would bring? I'm just so curious.
I think that it would bring a transparency of if the person is a bot. Like, okay, for example, American elections, when I was working as a political reporter, there were people that were tweeting out like immigration is going to kill the country, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it was actually like paid Twitter accounts that weren't even from the US, that were like from around the world, that were like paid to comment on American elections, So I think that that's where transparency can, like, that's where that type of thing can come in handy.
That's interesting.
That has nothing as it relates to podcasting, but what I'm saying is that there's so much data.
Well, it kind of does. I have an idea of how it could. Because if you think about how many people get approached by all kinds of people that are like, let me grow your channel.
Yes,
right?
I know how to grow your channel to the top 1% of Apple Podcasts. Yes.
Exactly. And those are typically people who are, you're just like, what are they, like download farms is what it's called or something like that.
And like those people bother me because I reach out to people. Like if I see someone's using Riverside and loving it, I'll reach out to them on Facebook. If I see it on a community, I'm like, hey, I heard you're loving Riverside. And 9 times out of 10 people are like, I don't want to buy what you're selling. I'm like, no. You kind of already are because I'm working with Riverside and you like Riverside. I'm just trying to ask you more about your show and learn about you. I swear I'm a real boy. So yeah, there's people. I mean, it's not only like annoying because it's like crowds your inbox, but when I'm actually trying to reach out to people and get to know the community, people are like automatically very defensive. They're like, what are you doing in my DMs? And I'm like, I swear I'm not going to try to tell you that I can get you ranked in the top 1% of Apple Podcasts. Here's how.
True.
I'm kidding.
But here's how. You start with Riverside. It's really interesting though too, because I'm someone who like I don't know. When people reach out in my DMs, I'm like, okay, thank you, and then move on. You know what I mean? I'm like, okay, wonderful. And sometimes I'm like, the messages that I'll get, I'm like, that's so wild that would be like the first thing that you would say. You know what I mean? Like you're not even trying to build a relationship or be curious about the person. But I think that, and you tell me what you think about this. I feel like a lot of Riverside's, like success in general comes from community.
I agree, just because I'm biased as the community lead, but I agree. I think that a big part of it is that we really are plugged into what the community's saying. We're building a product for people and we're constantly plugged into what those people say and think and feel. So for example, like every time that we're coming out with a new feature, the product team will reach out to me and be like, hey, do you have a few users that I can speak to hear about what they'd think about this feature? Or I will literally take screenshots from our Facebook community group. And it'll be somebody saying, I wish that you could easily skip between chapters while I'm editing. And you'll see that like people will, like from our product team, will look at it and be like, oh, this is really cool. And then they'll tag other people on the team. How do you think we can implement this? And then a week later, they'll write to me and say, hey, it's in there. You could tell the user. So if they're like easy wins that we can see, we'll act on them and be like, let's do this. But if they're also big trends, it's like, okay, that's our next feature. I've never been at a place where the users really do kind of, I wouldn't say control the roadmap because that sounds like weird, but it's like they really inform it. They influence it. They inform it. Like it's really cool to see. And I'm not just saying that because I work here, but it's like what people want next is like very heavily weighted here.
That's really, really key. And I want to ask because I feel like if we think about podcasting now today, podcasting the way it's going to be in the future, there's a huge component to just community in general, right? Everyone wants to focus on building their community. People want to figure out who their listeners and who their audience are. People won't always reach out in the DMs to ask questions about an episode. Like, people just won't always do that. And so how did you do this through Riverside? Like, everyone always wants like to grow the community, but I don't think we really talk about how do you actually do that?
Yeah. So, I mean, I will say this as like somebody that have backing of an entire company. So I know it's different for podcasters, but here are some tips. One, I would meet your community where they are. So, like, for example, there are platforms like Circle, there are platforms like Patreon, there are that type of thing. See where people are actually hanging out. I went with Facebook because for me, it was important that I wanted podcasters to be talking and it be sandwiched in between like somebody that you knew from high school posting a picture from their wedding and like your aunt writing about her vacation. Like I wanted it to be like part of your life was like an important part. But beyond that, I think going into these communities and making a name for yourself there is really important. So let's say that I have a podcast about tennis. I'm going to go in and be an active contributor and not like very much do not do this, not blasting my podcast episodes because don't link dump on these communities, but like be somebody that people want to talk to, that people recognize, that type of thing, and communicate with other people in communities. And it will make you more of like an authority in that space. It also, bonus points, helps you think of other episodes and other things you could talk about that people care about in those communities. And then a lot of it is like kind of, I call it like planning the perfect party. So that is part of it is who do I want to come to the party? Who are my listeners? Who would be my community? Kind of mapping that out. Okay, now that I have that map, what music do they want to listen to? What food do they want to eat? So that's for me, what episodes do they want? What kind of discussions would they want in a community? And then it's about inviting the right people and enticing people. Isn't this a really cool community to come into? So it could be inviting people from these other communities, say, hey, I'm starting this kind of like a niche community on tennis with people who are left-handed. I'm really trying to go on this path, And then I saw that you're left-handed. Come join this community. I think it's really great. And from there, you build your own community. You know what I mean? So you start to build people in your community that are going to want to talk there as like this niche kind of thing. Something that I did early on, a little trick, is that in the beginning, it's really hard for people in the communities to get other people to post or get conversations going. So I made friendships with people that were in the community. Like I reached out to them. I just had calls and I was like, hey, do you mind like once a week just posting in the community? Like I'd really appreciate that. And people are much more receptive to that than you think. Like in the beginning, it was a lot of that. It was like talking with users and being like, hey, like if you have a question, like you should really post about it in the community. And once they have that like connection with you, they're much more likely to want to help you out with that. So they're like, yeah, of course. Let me post that in the community. Let me like a post if I see it on my feed. Like that human to human connection makes people want to do that more. So it's kind of like creating almost like false engagement in the beginning to create that organic one. Because then once somebody else posts, you have other people that are looking at their screen saying, oh, I have a question. I should probably post that too,
Exactly.
Because when it's the host posting too much, it's like, okay, this is kind of just like a megaphone for everybody. So I just went through I feel like I like word vomited a bunch of community
it's a
ideas.
masterclass in community building. We love it.
Sorry about that. I'm like going all over the place. But yeah, I mean, I would say first go on Reddit and go on Facebook and like LinkedIn, wherever people are talking about your topic, and really listen to what conversations are landing. Get involved in the conversations and try to see how you can redirect those conversations to your own community. And then I would also say that especially people that are listening to podcasts, I think there's a craving of podcasting for that human connection. It's like one of the last forms of long form that people are like engaged in, besides like movies and true crime documentaries. So I would say don't underestimate that. That person has you in their ear. So if you like if there are ways that you can connect with people. I know Anna Xavier, who we both know, suggested that if somebody likes her post, like she'll reach out to them and be like, hey, thanks so much. Would love to talk sometime if you're interested. Like, I know that takes a lot, but even just making those initial connections, those are people that you can later come back to and say, hey, would you like to join I'd really love to have you as part of my community. And those human connections like really, really go a long way. So.
Oh, I completely agree with you. How important do we think this is, in terms of podcast growth as we look into the future? We're recording this right now and it's 2025. It's going to go out in 2025, but then we are going to head into a new year. It's 2026, right? What do we think is going to happen in the industry? So much has changed already this year. I would be so curious to what your thoughts are and, what you think is going to be important as we go into, yeah.
Yeah, I think that AI, I'm going to give the very cliche answer of AI. But here's the difference. I think that AI is going to continue to be very important, but it's going to be about how you use it. I think that a lot of podcasters in our industry are like because of that aforementioned like long form human connection. I think that a lot of podcasters kind of are pushing AI away a little bit because they're like, whoa, this is my very human, very passionate thing that I'm doing, and get this robot off my desk, So I think that where the secret kind of sauce is that figuring out how to use AI to actually cut out the parts that you don't like or that you can make your workflows faster. I think that it's going to help people avoid burnout, because there's so much that goes into podcasting. So if there's something that you can offload, then do that. So I think that we're going to continue to be pushed down this AI track because I think a lot of us are being pushed down ambivalently, being like, stop pushing me down the street.
I don't want to go down the slide.
Stop. Exactly. Yes. So I think that the more that you can embrace it, but still with that level of skepticism. Okay, I'll embrace this so that it can write my show notes, I guess. Like that kind of thing. I think that it's really going to help people continue to do what they love rather than kind of taint the thing that they love,
Well, one of the biggest pain points in podcasting is how much quote unquote time it takes, right? And you have, regular shows like we're doing today, we're just having a conversation and so on. And that doesn't take as much intricacy, if you will. I mean, you have to make sure you're asking good questions and that the content is good and that it's a conversation people actually want to listen to. But if you think about, I read somewhere the other day, I don't even remember where I read it, but one of the things they were talking about was as we go into 2026 and beyond, you're going to start to see a split in video and audio podcasting. The video side will start to be like shorter, bite-sized content, which it always kind of is, right? Like stuff on YouTube has always kind of trended shorter, but you'll start to see that. But then on the audio side, you'll start to see more sound design, more music brought in, more elements to create an actual experience. And so it's interesting to see like the two different pieces. But one of the biggest things I think that people struggle with is time and dedicating their time to the actual bringing their vision to life. A lot of the people that we work with, actually everyone that we work with in the agency, they don't want to do the production work. They don't want to do any of that stuff. And so, So
using AI to be able to do that is like super helpful. That's the movement for 2026 is everyone's just coming to Riverside. That's the movement.
That's the
AI what? Show notes. I'm kidding. Riverside has AI. That's the movement. 2026.
Exactly. You don't even need your own. One of the things that I will say though is on the AI front. So we're transparent, like within the agency, we use AI to help with those different things. We'll use it to help remove different filler words, right? For example, like the that I just said. And not all of them though, just some of them. But we'll use it to help in the process, like you said, make the workflow easier. And also, we always make sure that there's a human touch at some point in every part of the process, even when it comes to titling, even when it comes to show notes. Like I'm kind of a believer of even if something spits out something that is created for you already, like you still kind of have to check it. Does it make sense? Is it in your voice?
100%.
Is it how you're going to talk? Like don't just copy and paste everything that's there and use it as yours. That's my thought. But then of course, any AI content, especially let's say the show notes or titles that are created in Riverside, it's based off of the content that you fed it. It's based off of the episode that it's listening to, right?
Exactly.
So it's pulling off of original content. But I think that a huge piece will be the strategy behind podcasting. How do you tap into keywords? Like, people don't know how to find their keywords. What should their keyword be for their title or their episode and so on? So it makes it a lot easier. But I think that's where you'll start to see like a split of someone who's editing a podcast for you, and versus someone who's doing the strategy behind it to help it continue to grow.
Yeah, for
This is
sure.
my
And I
thought.
think that, like,
My promise
I mean,
to trying to have a job in 2026. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
no, I mean, I actually want to back it up to what you were saying about video and audio and like video kind of becoming clips, because super interesting to me because, okay, I know I work at Riverside and we also do video. I listen to audio. Like I think that the trick though with video and audio isn't particularly that people are going to be watching your hour-long video episode. And they might be, and that's great. But I think that it's because YouTube has such better discovery than Spotify and Apple. By that, what I mean is that, like, when's the last time that you went to Spotify and you're like, Taylor Swift's new album? I mean, you could, and then you'd find Taylor Swift's new album because it's Spotify. But you know what I mean? Like podcasts about that, you know?
Yes.
But how many times are you going to YouTube and doing that same thing? Like, just as far as human habit right now, as it stands, it's like YouTube is its own search engine. You know, like people are getting more information about the keywords that they search for. Spotify and Apple have not caught up in that in any way. So I think that's the power of YouTube right now, is like the discovery. So maybe putting 10 minutes of your podcast episode that's about the topic that's in the news right now, in that, like, that trending kind of topic or in your niche, whatever is in the news, putting that in as a 10-minute episode, that person might watch your hour-long interview, but it also just introduces them to your content. So it's not to knock audio only. I'm still like very firm believer. I love audio only. And I don't feel when I'm listening to my audio only podcast that I need to be watching on video. I think that the reason video is becoming so big is because of that discoverability and the way that people search on YouTube that they'll never, or I'll never say never, that they will not do on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as it stands.
I agree with you. There's a stat, I believe it was through Sounds Profitable, and I believe the stat is that 64% of audio-based podcast listeners find their new shows through YouTube directly. And so they go to the YouTube platform to find them, and they say, okay, I love this show, I love this content, and they'll bring it back to their native app and go and listen to Spotify, Apple, Good Pods, like wherever you're listening to your podcast, exactly what you're saying.
And in that kind of note, when we're talking about YouTube, that's different. As far as Instagram Reels and TikToks and people like breaking their backs trying to make all of these clips, I think clips are important. I think they're nice. I think that it's the best time spent towards marketing your show. Maybe not. You know, I don't know the last time, and like anyone who's listening or you can correct me on this, like, that I've been scrolling through TikTok and I've seen something like a podcast episode that's stopped me in my tracks and I'm like, I need to go listen to that episode. Yeah. Maybe it's like a podcast that I already knew. Like maybe I'm like, oh, Call Her Daddy had Kim Kardashian on. I should listen to that. I don't know how that just came to my brain. It was just the lowest hanging fruit. I should listen to that. But that's already a podcast that I know. So it's good for getting your name out there and in front of people, but it's the remembering the amount of times that somebody has to see you to have that connection, know that podcast name, go to your show. So I sometimes think that kind of effort can be also put into blog posts or a Substack, can be also put into guesting on other people's shows. If you are listening and you right now feel like, oh my God, I'm putting in so much effort into making these reels and posting them and engaging in the comments and all of that, I want to challenge you to take like even 20% out of that flow and put it to creating a Substack for yourself and embed like your episode into that. See if that will work, because that's SEO. So try it. Let me know how it goes.
And reach out in the DMs.
Reach out in the comment on my post, reach out in the DMs, and we'll bring a really full circle.
Exactly. Even something like Threads, for example. Threads I really like for podcasting overall, and just not even just podcasting, but to have an actual conversation, because people just talk about the things that come to their mind right away, which I love. When it comes to clips, I do them for the podcast because again, like you have the kind of like the brand awareness, the show awareness, and like all that kind of stuff, which is great. And if it's easy for you to do. But when it comes to clips though, I always want to make sure that there's some kind of story arc in there. If it starts in the middle of a random part of the episode, like people don't have enough context to listen to the whole thing. So I find that the clips that do really well would be someone like, Diary of a CEO, like the clips that they put out there, of course they take so much time to create, right? But they're telling a story and they're leaving you on kind of like a cliffhanger type of thing. So it's almost like there's like in some ways, kind of like a split between the people who can do that stuff and then the people who can't or don't have the resources. So it's, so you got to find other ways.
But the people who can't, here's what I would say. Because then you put in all this production, you do all this stuff to make your clips look great. And then you see like a girl crying in her car being like, I just got yelled at in the Froyo line. And that post has 1 million likes. So like, you're like, God damn it. So basically what I would say then is instead create your own kind of woman yelled at me in the Froyo line. By that, what I mean is that does all of your content, all of your reels, all of your TikToks or whatever have to be clips from your podcast? Could it be you talking about if you have a podcast about tennis and there is a tennis player on the cover of, I don't know, Vogue. I'm really just reaching for these.
No, it's good. You're good.
Like, and then you
Lots
could just
of creative ideas
be like,
here.
oh my God, so-and-so was on Vogue. Here's my breakdown of like why this matters, or look how hot they look. I don't know. Like, you can doesn't have to, like, your content online does not have to be from your podcast. If you make yourself a known person within this industry, this topic, this conversation, then that I think is sometimes more impactful than taking a part of your podcast, or even here's a day in the life of me making my podcast, or like something like
come behind the scenes with me,
yeah,
day
I
in
was
the life as
talking
a
about
producer.
I was talking to a user of Riverside actually, or no, my colleague was talking to this user, and he was saying that they have a podcast about cars, about like off-roading or whatever. And they put out all this content about off-roading and like it does well. But then one day they were like pulled over, but while they were on their way to off-road or something. So they like recorded it. Like it's just like kind of funny video, got pulled over in my Jeep or whatever. And that gained them like all these followers and it was like their highest amount of like engagement on any video that they've ever made. And it was just them like laughing as got pulled over, and it took
Simple.
Besides having to like pay for the ticket that I'm sure they got, like it took a lot less effort than having to make all of this. Like they just recorded themselves and then they put it on Riverside, cut it, put it out,
That's
so
amazing.
Don't box yourself into these talking head kind of videos. You can just be walking the street, take a video of yourself, put some captions on it, and you can create that kind of content too. And I think it's also like it helps people connect with you.
I
and
love
find
that.
you.
I love that. I have two final questions for you, Kendall.
Okay.
The first one is there any trends right now that you or Riverside are watching that you're sort of starting to see, come up that most people maybe haven't caught on to yet?
Ooh. I would say, well, I don't think that most people haven't caught on to this, but like we added something called magic segments. And the idea is that instead of having, everyone's talking about shorts and then everyone's talking about the long form video, but we're seeing more and more of what you were saying, which is that 3 to 10 minute clips are getting like a lot of attention right now. People may not want to watch your full podcast, but they will watch that 10-minute clip about that one thing that you talked about. So like for this episode, if we clipped just the conversation of reels, are they worth it? Maybe somebody wouldn't be listening to the full episode, but now they're in just that part. We introduced magic segments for that reason. So it's like an AI generated 3 to 10 minute cut of your fuller conversation. But that's where I see, and I guess it's not that much of a secret because you were talking about that earlier, but that's where I kind of see YouTube going. But you're in the industry, so yeah, you're just you're ahead of your time, I'll say. So that's kind of where I see it going. Is everyone's been obsessed with the shorts and the long form, but there is this kind of mid form that's becoming more and more important.
Exactly. And it's like, how do you like layer that into your strategy, especially if you're a bi-weekly podcaster? If you're not creating content on a weekly basis, how can you take, if you're doing a long form video one week and then maybe use that feature to have a shorter clip the following week, and then the week after you have your regular, like it makes content, it
I
makes
would
it
even
easier.
use the segment as like a teaser the week before, like
Mm,
where we talk about all of this kind of stuff in the next episode. I would do something like that maybe. I'm also
I
seeing
love
a lot
that.
of podcasters actually putting out their audio episodes and then their video ones are coming later.
Hmm.
So that's something that's been interesting to see and
Very.
I don't know how that's working for them, but like I've just been noticing more and more that they're like, oh, we have this conversation, the video drops of it, and I'm wondering if they get those double views. To be fair, those are all people that are like interviewing celebrities, so maybe there's like a lot that comes with seeing those celebrities.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then I'm also seeing that I think that there is a huge focus from people on affiliates, sponsorships, that kind of thing to monetize.
Yeah.
But more and more when I'm talking to creators and that have been able to go full time and I ask them how they went full time, they're saying things like Patreon. Like
Hmm.
building your own channel, your own source of income, maybe your own like personalized merch type of thing.
Yeah.
That has been actually getting people success faster than finding that great sponsorship. So
Hmm.
I think we'll see more of that.
And also that directly correlates back to community, because you can't have that without having a community of people that are
You did it for
actually,
me.
oh,
You tied it up for me.
I
Incredible
try,
hosting.
I do what I can. So on all, Kendall, on all of the updates that Riverside is bringing or has announced, the hosting and all of the features that you already have within the platform. Of course, if you're listening to this today and you want to check out Riverside, if you're not already using it, there's a link in the episode notes below for you to do that. But what do you hope that this new release inspires creators to do differently?
I hope that it inspires creators to. I hope that inspires creators to, when they are able to do everything in one place and not have that whole cumbersome kind of back and forth. I hope that it inspires them to be able to continue, if that makes sense. There's so much
Mm-hmm.
burnout, I think. And one of the things that I really love about Riverside is just like, that you're able to record from anywhere, which means that so many more people are able to share their stories, which means that we get so many more stories out there. And that's the way that humans connect. So I think that that's like kind of a really beautiful thing that Riverside's able to help bring to the table. But the problem is that so many people start podcasting and then they have so many like places they need to pay now and so many
Yeah.
things they need to do. So I'm hoping that it inspires podcasters to continue to tell their stories because there are less barriers to do it.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I love that so much.
Thank
We
you.
see a lot of that too, I have a membership for podcasters, and even in the membership, there's someone who launched their podcast at like over almost a year ago, launched the podcast as part of the membership and did it with the community support, which was awesome and fantastic. And kept going. And I remember there was a point in the summertime, he's like, oh, I think I gotta bring the frequency down to biweekly. I'm like, okay, but do that though. If that's the thing that you need to do, then that's okay. Do that. And then, maybe if you have the intention of going back to a weekly podcast, do that too. And that's fantastic. And you just kind of batch things in advance and make it easier on yourself. But I think there's also something to be said about being in the right community of people, right? To
Mm-hmm.
help you continue to take those steps to progress, to know what is going on in the industry so that you don't have to worry about, am I doing this right? Am I doing this wrong? You know, and you can continue to grow and you can continue to make an impact. Because at the end of the day, we all have a
Yeah.
voice. You get to add more good or you get to add more not so good. You get to choose, right?
And remember that like your listeners are most likely not hate listening to you. You know, like they like you, they support you, they want to hear you. So even saying like, "Hey guys, like it's just been a crazy few months, so I'm going to be doing this biweekly just for a few weeks or whatever." I am almost going to guarantee you that these people will be like, "Do you? Like we love your content." And no one's going to be like, "Well, what the hell? I'm not going to listen to your show anymore," or "That's ridiculous."
Exactly.
Because it's long form, because it's like such an intimate experience of hearing somebody in your ears or watching them on YouTube. Don't underestimate the fact that there's such a human experience of this that people are so much more willing to understand and give grace to that humanness, you know?
I love that. I love that. That is perfect. Kendall, thank you so much for joining me today on the podcast.
Yeah.
I always love having you. You're welcome back anytime. You come on back anytime. Once a year, maybe we do a yearly debrief.
Don't threaten me with a good time. I'm down. I'm here all the time. I'm just going to stay in the studio waiting for my next close-up. I'm excited.
Perfect. Wonderful. The link has already been sent. It's your link. No, I'm just kidding.
Thank you so much for having me. I really love coming on the show. So it's exciting to get to catch up with you again.
I know. I love it. Thank you so much. And thank you for tuning into today's episode. Reach out to us. Let us know what you think, any questions that you have. We're not strangers. We're excited to talk to you and we want to talk to you. Yeah. So thank you.
We love it.
We love it. We love it. We love hearing from you. And we will see you same time, same place next week. Bye for now.